My name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I'm here today for the Theosophical Order of Service to present our legacy project. Now, what we're doing is that we're interviewing contemporary Theosophists and finding about their journey. Many times we speak with them, we hear them give talks, we hear about the issues, but we don't hear about their personal lives. So this is the purpose of the Theosophical Legacy Project. Today, we have a wonderful person who's been a Theosophist since 1973. I'm going to get him to tell you a little bit about that. He attended Purdue University, and in his own words, he says, 3 significant things occurred while he was at the university. He said, I met Carol while working as a waiter in the girls' dormitory, married Carol on May the 31st, 1963, and graduated on June the 2nd, 1963, with a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering. And then he and his wife moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he became a systems engineer of the Apollo guidance system. And eventually he got a master's in science in industrial administration. Amazing, all the stuff he's done in the Theosophical Society, and I'm going to let him tell you about that in just a minute, but let's welcome Floyd Kettering. Hi, Floyd.
Hi there.
Yeah, we're glad to have you today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
Well, you've got a lot of story to tell in terms of Theosophy and Theosophical Order of Service, and I'm really excited to have you share that. And first, I want to find out, where were you born?
I was born in Rensselaer, Indiana,
Okay.
county seat of Jasper County, right in the middle of corn country.
Okay. And then you now live where?
I now live in West Chicago, Illinois, which is only 10 minutes away from the national headquarters of the Theosophical Society.
Okay. And for those that do not know where the national headquarters are, could you tell us?
Certainly. It's located in Wheaton, Illinois, which is the county seat of DuPage County, just immediately west of the city of Chicago. The actual distance from the lake shore is about 24 miles to the Olcott National Center.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location.
It is. I mean, it was established here in 1926 after the headquarters had been in California for a number of years. And it was then moved around a few times, depending on where the president lived. And it was decided they needed to have a centrally located headquarters that was easily accessible by train at the time, because airports hardly existed in 1920s. And they got on the train in Chicago and went out and stopped in various communities until they found Wheaton. And they found a property they could acquire. They bought 10 acres north of Wheaton. It was actually country. It was a farm field at the time, and that's where they built the National Center.
Right. And
Annie Besant was here for the cornerstone laying in 1926.
And didn't they acquire more land?
Over the years, we're over 40 acres now.
Right.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. Well,
and it's also an arboretum.
Yes.
So beautiful property with lots of trees.
Yeah, I hope everyone can join, especially at the Summer National Conventions. They're marvelous.
Yes.
Now, I want to find out a little bit about your background, your spiritual background. Were you raised in a religion?
Technically, I was raised a Methodist.
Okay.
My father was raised Methodist. I believe my mother was raised Catholic, but then when we were children, we joined the Methodist Church.
Now, did your parents have a lot of influence? Did they try to teach you spirituality or religion, or was it just kind of not mentioned, left up to the church, or how did that go for you?
No, it wasn't spirituality or religion. It was just being a good person.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that my mother's focus was on be good, be nice to people. So.
Well, I think the Dalai Lama says that his religion is kindness, so I think that was a pretty good advice.
Yes, right.
Do you feel like that advice and the grounds that you got, the grounding you got from your mother, helped you have an open mind in your spiritual journey?
Well, to a certain extent, although they were somewhat confused after I went to college and started questioning organized religion. So
And you've questioned it ever since, I bet.
Ever since, yes, ever since.
Well, that brings us. I do know that you came to the Theosophical Society, but before that, were you on any kind of active spiritual journey before you came to the Theosophical?
Not really. I was focused. Prior to that, I was really focused on education and on career. That was my primary focus. So I really did not give much thought to any spiritual practice or searching there.
Well, tell us about joining the Theosophical Society. I know your wife introduced you to it, and just tell that story.
Okay. Well, it was interesting. In the spring of 1972, a friend of hers took her out to the Wheaton campus. We were living in the Chicago suburbs at the time, but she took her out to the Wheaton campus and showed her around the library. And Carol, this is a good fit for her. She liked it a lot, and she had been studying spiritual things at the time. She decided she wanted to join the library, and the librarian said, well, for a little bit more, you can join the society. So she did on the spot. And then after a few months of studying, and she's visited the Wheaton Center several times, they were having their national gathering, the summer national gathering in 1972. And she went to it, attended all the meetings. And she said, well, Floyd, there's going to have a really interesting lecture on Sunday that you should come to. And I said, okay. It was an archaeologist who gave a talk and a slide presentation on the search for the stone flower, which was a symbol of the Mayan civilization. Oh. And that was quite interesting. I really enjoyed that. And it didn't go any further at the time. I was doing some consulting work in St. Louis that summer. And Carol went down. We drove down to St. Louis one week. She came down with me for the week. And she was reading one of Leadbeater's books to me all the way to St. Louis. So
you don't remember what book it was, do you, by any chance?
I don't remember exactly which one it was, no. But it was interesting.
Well, I think my first theosophical book I got probably was Leadbeater, The Science of the Sacraments.
It wasn't Science of the Sacraments, because it was talking about the various rounds and chains, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure which one that was.
Well, that's a very complicated.
It was.
For her to be reading that to you, and you'd have no idea about theosophy, and you're listening to the most complicated theory in theosophy.
But it intrigued me. It hooked me a little bit. And then in September of 72, they were having the North American Students Conference on the World's Great Religions. And I said, wow, that intrigues me. I've always been interested in various religions. In fact, when I was in high school, I visited different churches just to see what they were like. And so I said, gee, curious mind. We hear that. Yeah. But I had to be a member to go to the conference. It was a residential conference over the weekend at the Wheaton Center. And so I joined and became a member and attended that conference. And it was, I enjoyed it very much. We studied Buddhism and Hinduism and Christianity, Judaism. And there were people there from Latin America, and there were people there from Canada. So it was a diverse group. And there were a few other young people there too. I was 31 at the time. So I was still of young Theosophist age at that point. And there were a few other young people there too. And it was really, I enjoyed it a great deal. But we were standing in the lunch line in the cafeteria area, and Joy Mills was standing in front of me in the line, and Marion Lee, who was a board member at the time from San Antonio, and they were having a conversation about how Joy was saying they had to change all of their accounting procedures and systems because of the Kern Foundation, which had come into effect just recently, and they were going to have to go through all these changes. And all I said was, yeah, that's my business. I could help you with that. And that's all you need to say to Joy, I think. because in short order, I was a member of the Financial Advisory Committee discussing all the various changes that they had to go through. So.
Oh, wow. And so it continued. So where did you go from there?
Okay, well, after that extended engagement in St. Louis, and I had been traveling for the last 7 years all around the Midwest. I was rarely home because I was a consultant with Coopers and Lybrand at the time, and management consultant doing projects in Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, and I was never home. And my kids were growing up. They were little children at the time, and I wanted to spend more time with them. And Carol and I decided it was time for me to change careers. And so I started interviewing various locations. And Carol and I were supposed to attend a meeting on a Friday evening in Wheaton. And I was in Ohio on a job interview. And Carol called out and said, well, we'll be there. We're supposed to be there at 7:30. We'll be there if Floyd's plane is on time. And if he gets back, we'll be able to be there on time. But I just want you to know, if his plane is delayed, we might be late. Well, they said, well, where is he? He says, well, he's in Ohio on a job interview. So they knew I was looking for a job at that time. And it was a very interesting series of events which then occurred. Helen Zahara, who was the chairman of the educational department and also the general manager of the publishing house, passed away suddenly with no expectation, and it created a vacuum at the publishing house. At the same time, they had been renting a house out on the grounds to the Presbyterian minister and his wife. He suddenly had a heart attack and passed away. And the wife wanted to move back to Ohio, where her family was. So suddenly there's a job opening and a house available on the grounds of the society. And Joy Mills called Carol and I into her office on a Sunday afternoon after one of the Sunday lectures, and she offered me a position in the publishing house. It certainly was not on my career plan. This is not the direction I had planned it. Carol and I, were both taken aback by it a little bit, but we discussed it and decided, well, Carol said she would be happy if we did that. I said, well, if certain conditions can be met, we have a family, we're raising a family, we'll do it. So they offered us the house as part of the compensation. They were able to give me about 50% of what I was making at the time. And we took the position in April of '73. I began working at the publishing house as operations manager.
Now, how old were your children, and what did they think about this?
Well, that previous summer, Carol became a vegetarian because of the Theosophical Society. And she explained to the children that, she was against harming animals, and they bought into it completely instantly. They had no concern about that whatsoever. And they were quite happy with it. I mean, we were living in a townhouse, and we were able to move into a house with a 40-acre backyard.
And how old were they?
Okay, well, Rebecca would have been, let me stop and do my math here. Rebecca would have been 8 at the time, and my son Bill would have been 5.
Oh, they were very little. So were they raised then with the Theosophical principles?
Yes, totally.
And how long did you live in that house?
38 years.
Okay.
So we stayed there for 38 years in that house. And the children went to Wheaton North High School, which was right down the street. First, they attended Montessori, and then they went to the Wheaton schools. So
that's quite a legacy for your children. My goodness.
Since then, I have been helping to raise my granddaughters in the same mode.
Oh, okay.
And they're very spiritual.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you just took your granddaughter off to college.
Yes, I just last weekend helped her move into Bloomington, Indiana University. She's starting her sophomore year in a week, so she had to get moved in.
Right. Well, the journey continues, and something happened that really influenced both of your lives, and it turned the direction of your lives. Could you tell about Carol and her service project, and how
Right.
that started, and all about it?
Okay. Well, it all started that first summer of 1972 when she attended the national conferences. They had an information table around about the Theosophical Order of Service. And she stopped and talked to the lady there. I think her name was Olive Dooley, and she, I think, was from Milwaukee. But anyway, she visited with her, and she said, well, what's the Theosophical Order of Service, and how does it work? And Olive told her, well, we have different projects that you can work on. She says, but any kind of service is appropriate. And Carol thought about that for a while. Well, she was busy raising our children. She had a lot of time spent with them, and then she took a part-time job, and she was part-time working at the publishing house at one point, and then she became a student of numerology, and actually ended up teaching numerology. She also was teaching the Course in Miracles at the Unity Church in Oak Park, and doing various activities like that. But then in the fall of 1979, she decided she wanted to take a more active role in service to the community. And she came to me and discussed it and said, well, I want to do something for Christmas. I'd like to help families. There are families out there who need help. And so she visited the county health department, talked to the county nurses, and they all said, well, yeah, we have a lot of people we know about that could use some help. So Carol got a list of 35 families that could really use assistance for Christmas. She came home, opened up her phone book, started calling family and friends, and said, we're going to help these families, and you're going to help us do it.
Oh, my.
And we went and talked to Dora Kuntz, who was president at the time of the Theosophical Society, and said, we want to do this, but we need some space to organize it. And she said, okay, fine, you can use the lower level family area space downstairs. And so we gathered together food, gifts. We actually did not know any better at the time, and we accepted used clothing. We'll never do that again.
Because everybody brought so much, you mean?
We were waist deep in used clothes. We had no idea what sizes anybody was and what to do with it. But anyway, then Carol organized all these volunteers to pick up this food and all these gifts and take it to the families and deliver it to them for Christmas.
Wow. And so that was the first year.
That was the first year, 1979, Christmas.
And I understand that the project expanded, it expanded,
Well,
blew up.
We did. We did it again the next Christmas.
Yes.
We moved out of the main building over to the shipping room at the publishing house and worked out of that area. But we were growing with a number of families. And then we did it the following Christmas. And we were we took over space in the warehouse from the publishing house to do it there, because by that point, we'd grown to 100 families we were helping. And we needed a lot more space to do that. Wow,
that's a lot. Well, how did you work that in with your regular job?
Well, it was my night job.
Okay.
The Theosophical Society was my day job, and that was my night job. Of course, it was just at Christmas time, and I would just take a week's vacation and spend my vacation doing that, sorting food and organizing it and distributing it. It took a lot more volunteers, and we decided at that point, after Carol had more conversations with the county nurses, that there were people who needed help all year round. Now, up to that point, we were just doing this as a side project with no organized permanent basis for it.
Right.
So at that point, we said, well, if we're going to do this on a year-round basis, we need to incorporate. We'll have to become a charity. We'll have to do all the legal things that you need to do this properly.
Is that when you changed the name of the organization?
No, we didn't change the name. We actually incorporated as the Theosophical Order of Service Humanity Project in spring of 1982 and began serving senior citizens at that point. on a monthly basis. We would arrange for grocery deliveries to their homes at that point. And we started out with 3 seniors living in Wheaton. And we had a couple of volunteers that worked with us, and we would just coordinate groceries, buy groceries, and deliver it to their home.
Wow.
Over the years, we grew from that 3 seniors. We're now up to over 150 seniors that we deliver groceries to every month. And in the process of growing, of course, we added a few more projects along the way too, but in the process of growing and working with the local community, we found that being the Theosophical Order of Service kind of held us back in our relations with some of the other community service organizations and resources. And so we decided to change the name to the Humanitarian Service Project, which we did several years later, actually. But we have our roots in the Theosophical Order of Service.
Okay, so do you take donations for people that don't live in the area? I know that people in the area, I guess, can help and be there and buy groceries and volunteer.
Well, we have as I said, we've added other projects in the meantime. We've added a children's project, and we now have 700 children enrolled, and they will get a birthday box like this filled with gifts, books, school supplies, and a bag full of the supplies needed to have a party. Cake mixes, candles,
oh my gosh,
little things like that.
That is huge.
And then we added on a Feed the Kids program, which we did realize during the summer months, children are not in school where they normally receive a meal.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, they're not getting that. So we started our Feed the Kids program, and in the summer months, we started delivering huge grocery packages, 200 pounds of groceries per family, all through the months of June, July, and August. Well, all of that changed with COVID. Suddenly, the children weren't in school and weren't getting meals at all. And we said, well, we have to adapt. So we've changed it. We now have made food available every week, and the families could come by, and in a touchless process, they would stop outside our building, call us. We would bring out a shopping cart full of groceries, put it in their car, and they would leave. We wouldn't interface with them at all. Our seniors no longer could we deliver. In fact, a lot of our seniors lived in subsidized housings, and those buildings shut down completely. We were not allowed in the buildings. We could no longer deliver groceries to them. The only way we could support them was going by the grocery store, buying gift cards, and mailing it to them. So most of our seniors are now receiving a monthly grocery store gift card because we can't actually deliver the groceries to them. Of course, we're still doing the Christmas project. And we're up at Christmas time. We've been as high as 2,000 children at Christmas.
Goodness.
Because not only do we handle all the families that are enrolled in our other projects and our seniors, but we were also delivering presents to schools, delivering presents to another food pantry, delivering presents to a church organization, so that we were putting gifts out there to over 2,000 children.
When you started this, and I'm assuming you were co-founder, correct?
Yes.
And when you started this, did you have any idea that it would become such a big project?
Don't think so. We may never have started it if we thought it would become this all-consuming.
This life mission. As a matter of fact, you're in the office right now. You have an office in the building.
I'm in my office here at the Humanitarian Service Project. Over the years, that's an interesting story too. Over the years, we had a spare room in our house, and then we set up an office there for the project, and that's where we operated out of for several years. Then we needed a little more room, and we were able to rent one of the guest rooms up at the Theosophical Society headquarters building, and we used that as an office. Then we needed a little more room, and we rented another room. In fact, there was a bathroom between those 2 rooms, and we stored birthday gifts stacked in the bathtub because we needed to have a place to store those temporarily. And eventually, the Theosophical Society said, well, we really want our space back. And in the meantime, we're still doing the Christmas project and our senior food distributions out of the Theosophical Publishing House warehouse. Well, in 1995, we finally had to move out. Well, actually in 94, we moved out and started renting space locally from other property, but that was always on a month-to-month basis. We were looking for a permanent home. And on July 4th, 1995, I signed a contract on a house in West Chicago. That was our Independence Day. So it was an old house that should have been torn down, but it had a big garage, had an acre of property, was on the west branch of the DuPage River, right on the main highway, Highway 59, which had easy access for so many people. And we went in and we restored that building, put on new siding, put a new roof, bought an old bank building, an old, two transportable units they put together as one building. It was a temporary bank structure. We used that as our pantry. We had to connect that to the garage because the city wouldn't let us put it there otherwise. We had to permanently anchor it to the ground. And we were there for 10 years and decided we'd outgrown that space. We wanted to expand that space, but the city would not let us. They said it wasn't zoned for what we wanted to do. So then we had to start shopping around for a new space. And it took us a year to find a new location, but we did. Within the year, we found a new location. So in 2006, we ended up buying our current building, which is located in Carroll Stream, which is only 4 minutes from the National Center. We're about 2 miles as the crow flies to the National Center. So we're very close. And the building was much more than we thought we needed. And it cost a lot more than we had, but we made it all work. We were able to sell the property in West Chicago for a huge capital gain. We were able to do a lot of fundraising. We raised the extra cash we needed, and the county gave us a very large grant to subsidize the purchase of the property. So we paid cash for this existing building. We have 8,000 square feet of office space, 7,500 square feet of warehouse space, and 2 acres of land with a huge parking lot. And it provided us all the space we needed. And would you believe it? I think we've outgrown it.
My goodness. So do you have permanent paid employees?
We have 8 employees. 4 are full-time, 4 are part-time.
Okay. That's amazing.
And
what position do you hold now?
I'm the chief financial officer and also chairman of the board.
Okay. And then what positions we're going to move over to the TS and the Theosophical Society. What positions are you holding currently there?
Okay. Well, first of all, in 2000, at the end of 2010, I officially retired from my position as chief financial officer, which I had been doing since 1990. And at that point, I swapped roles. My daytime job had been the Theosophical Society. My night job had been the Humanitarian Service Project. I reversed roles. Now, my day job is the Humanitarian Service Project. My night job is the Theosophical Society, because I still retained the position as a secretary of the Theosophical Investment Trust, and then eventually became national treasurer. So I'm also the national treasurer of the Theosophical Society.
What do you do in those positions? In the trust position, what do you actually do?
Okay, well, as a Theosophical Investment Trust secretary, I actually handle all the accounting work for the Theosophical Investment Trust. We have a large trust that combines the Theosophical Society's reserve funds, some special restricted funds, and then what I call other people's money. We have several accounts that we hold for other theosophical groups and invest it for income purposes. So we have monies from small lodges, large lodges. We have monies from the International Center. We have monies from the Theosophical Order Service. We have monies from the Theosophical Book Gift Institute. We have a special fund that was created by our previous head librarian to support the library. We have several different funds that it takes a lot of accounting to keep track of all of that. The investments are actually managed by the Northern Trust Company in Chicago, which is one of the elite management companies within the Midwest. They have been around for 150 years or so. In fact, they're called the Old Gray Lady of LaSalle Street in Chicago. They they have been in the wealth management business for well over a century. So they take the active role of managing the funds based on the guidelines that the investment trustees give them. And they generate income and capital gains that way for the programs of the Theosophical Society.
Well,
So
you
my
said
role
you have,
there, I'm sorry, yeah,
I just
go
wanted
ahead.
to know, is there a minimum, for example, if you know, a lodge or a study group or something had some money, is there a minimum investment that they would need to have to join that?
Well, there are two ways. The Theosophical Society holds a lot of very small accounts for some of the local groups, very small, $1,000 maybe.
Okay.
They're pooled together into one account, which they either put into CDs so they're secure, or if it's a larger amount, they pool that batch together and put it into one single account within the investment trust. So we're holding a substantial amount of dollars for local groups within that one pool. But that pool is within a pool, which is within a pool.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
And
Because the Northern Trust pools all of those accounts together into a single investment account, which is actually then distributed up between 6 different managers. So those all have to be merged together and then separated back out to all the very different funds that we're managing. And then that one fund has to be separated out all into all those other little funds that the society is managing. So there is a way to do it, yes.
I understand. And then in terms of national treasurer, what do you do as national treasurer?
Well, I oversee finances for the society in a general concept. I don't have to do the daily accounting work for the society, but I work closely with Paul Thompson, who is their CFO now, and there are accountants over there who do the daily work. I interface with them. I attend board meetings to discuss finances, give general financial advice to the president, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm glad that you don't have to be in the day-to-day things. You would never sleep as many things as you do.
Right.
I don't think you could handle that. Well, I'd like to move now back to your own personal spiritual journey. And,
okay.
and as you immersed yourself in this, you were working for the Theosophical Society, and I'm sure you went to many of the lectures and events there. And I'm wondering how your life began to change because of this association with the Theosophical Society and its teachings and principles.
Well, I found that I was completely in line with basic theosophical principles and Buddhist teachings, particularly the Noble Eightfold Path, for example. I found that this fell right into where I was trying to live my life, and the opportunities to attend all of those lectures. I've been to 51 national annual conferences now.
Oh my.
Even though the last few have been virtual and not in person.
Wow.
But I love the in-person ones. I really do, because I really like to meet with people and reinvigorate old friendships and old relationships. I really enjoy that. I'm really looking forward to them being in person again.
Yes.
But I had the advantage of living locally, being on campus for 38 years, and then continuing to live locally for the last 12 years has been, to my advantage, because then I can attend all of these meetings, participate in the various activities going on there, and also it has been so beneficial to me because it feeds my spiritual path.
Well, yes, thank you. And have there been any books, whether they're theosophical or Buddhist or something, that have impacted your life deeply that you can think of?
Well, there have been so many, because as operations manager at the publishing house, I was involved with the creation of so many of our quest books. But there are two that I think are probably, fundamental. It's At the Feet of the Master and Voice of the Silence.
I hear that. I hear that same thing every time I talk to somebody. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And how about meditation? Have you participated in daily meditation practices?
I don't do a I don't do I don't I'm not that organized to do a daily meditation. I find myself at various moments in a meditative place, and I just take advantage of it. I don't sit down and say, like, every morning I don't get up and do a meditation. But at some point during the day, I'll find the moment at which is appropriate, and I'll just have a few minutes of meditation. I get my best meditation in nature.
Oh,
I love being out in the natural world, whether it's trees or mountains or rivers or oceans or whatever. I love that, and that's where I find the best practice.
well, that is one of the paths, and that is the path of nature. One of the spiritual paths is to interface with, be in nature, love nature, communicate with nature.
And I'm lucky that the house that Carol and I bought when I retired, since I was living in the house on the property that the society was providing me. When I retired, I had to leave, so I had to go out. We had to go buy a house, and I'm lucky that the house I'm in is in a sort of a semi-natural environment. And I can just sit on my deck, and it's like I'm in the North Woods. So it's really great.
Oh, that's quite lovely. Well, I'm going to ask a really personal question, and I know that I did have permission to ask this, and that is, when your wife passed away, just how was that, and how did your spiritual life help you in that transition from being married to being a widower?
Well, Carol actually helped me with that, because what happened in 1973, when we moved to the Theosophical Society, we actually moved into the house on July 4th, again, an auspicious day of 1973, because we had to do some painting and replace carpet and do sort of things before we could actually move in. Within a month, Carol's mother passed away, suddenly, unexpectedly. And it was Carol's dealing with her mother's, because they were extremely close. They had been very, very close together. And the way Carol handled her mother's transition and dealt with it on a personal level guided me in how I dealt with Carol's transition when she made her pass. And I know that, Carol was Carol loved people, she loved family, and she loved service. And she would organize a project whenever she could. You know that the society has a Theosophist in September every year now. Well, it wasn't a Theosophist when we did it the first time. It was back in Dora Kuntz's regime as president. But they had an open house, and Carol was the organizer for that. She was always good at organizing things. Oh. And she organized that first open house, which was a huge success. And then she organized the Humanitarian Service Project, the Christmas Project, the Senior Project, the Children's Project. She was an organizer, and she brought people together to do things. I know that wherever she is, she's organizing something and has another project going. So I'm confident that she's in a good place, whatever plane she's on.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. If people wanted to help the Humanitarian Service Project, if they wanted to volunteer or send money, what would they do?
It's very easy. Well, it should be easy. As you found out, our website at the moment is in transition. We're just setting up a brand new website and changing web hosts. So it's in the process of transition today. But you can log into www.hsp.agency, and you can donate online easily. There's a donate button. That's all you have to do is click on that and donate. Or you can send a check. We're always open to accepting any donations. That can be mailed to 465 Randy Road. That's Randy Road, Carroll Stream, Illinois, 60188. And it's just make it payable to Humanitarian Service Project.
And I will put that under in the description.
Okay, thank you. Also, if you happen to be local, you can come by and visit us and drop anything off. I mean, we're in the middle of our school supply drive. We'll probably put together enough school supplies to reach out to about 3,000 children this summer.
Do you have volunteer positions in the organization if anyone
Well,
wants to volunteer?
we have volunteer activities going on year round. Most often we have our heaviest activity during the Christmas holiday season. November through December is when we have our heaviest activity. But since COVID, things have changed. We don't use as many volunteers. We've tried to reduce the amount of people that we're exposing to each other within any time. So we try to keep it into small groups. But we do have volunteer activities going on daily, Monday through Friday.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate you speaking with me today. And I wonder if there's any kind of thought that you would like to leave today about your own life, about the service project that you're doing, or just anything.
Well, my thought is, if you want to do service, do it. However you choose. I mean, there are so many opportunities. If it's at the local food bank, if it's a local children's organization, they are, just get online and say, and check out local volunteering. People can just do it wherever they are, and they can find something that really appeals to them. Even if it's a local animal shelter, whatever it is, the need is out there. So I encourage everyone to participate locally and help where you can. And service is so gratifying.
On many different levels. Often we think we're giving to someone, but they give more to us than we gave.
They do. I mean, I've gotten so much out of this, and the communicate. We've had, it's interesting. We've had different groups, individuals come through here that had been with us when they were a child, and they want to give back.
Wow.
Or they volunteered while they were in high school, and now they want whoever they're with, they want their community group to give back also. So it's been very fulfilling, extremely.
Well, again, I want to thank you so much, Floyd, for visiting with us today. And I wish you the very best in your project and in your life. Take care.
Thank you so much, Anne. It has been a joy.